You get the card at Melbourne. Good afternoon everybody and welcome along to live FOSROC Super 6 Sprint Series action from Edinburgh. We're bringing you a clash from Meggetland today as the league's bottom two sides do battle in the capital. It's the Boroughmuir Bears against the Southern Knights. This is the first round of fixtures since the Sprint Series splits, and it is a rematch from just 8 days ago. The 5th place Boroughmuir Bears looking to make it 3 wins in a row. And the Southern Knights rooted to the bottom of the table with just a solitary point to their name, and still seeking their first victory of the Sprint Series campaign. A beautiful afternoon in Edinburgh, barely a flutter of wind in the air, and this is how things stand as we approach this first round of post-split fixtures. As I say, the Knights rooted to the bottom of the table, 1 point from their 5 matches, a losing bonus point against Heriots a few weeks ago. And the Boroughmuir Bears know that with Heriots Rugby having a bye this weekend, any points at all will take them into 4th place in the top half of the bottom half of the table. Well, let's have a final run through today's team lineups. And for Boroughmuir Bears, a couple of injury-enforced changes to their starting 15. Glenn Faulds and Adam Scott both sidelined after beating the Knights 8 days ago. So in come Callum Ram and former Knight Joe Jenkins on the wings. It could be Robbie McCallum's last game for the club. He's preparing to take a job in London and a part-time contract in the English Championship. And the centre got 2 fine tries in this game last weekend. Up front, there are starts for 2 of Scottish Rugby's most promising prospects. National Under-18s captain Liam McConnell and his age grade teammate Jerry Blythe Lafferty, both born, believe it or not, in 2004 and very highly rated in the system. Corey Tate is rested and Josh King misses out this afternoon. Callum McFeet-Smith shifts from tight head prop to loose head, allowing for the introduction of heavyweight prop Martin McGinley to add ballast to the pack. More rotation for the Southern Knights as they continue to hunt that elusive first win of the campaign, and once again plenty of young talent on show in the Borderers ranks. Aidan Cross, just like McCallum, scored a double in this fixture a week ago, and Cammy Scott dealt very well with his opposite man's threat off the bench. He is promoted to the starting 15 today in place of Paul Slater, with Robbie Chalmers moving from inside to outside centre. Scotland age grade star Murray Redpath is in the saddle at scrum half. Try scorer Ben Afshar is on the bench. And in the pack there's a late change at hooker, a significant one as well, with captain Fraser Rennick dropping out of the matchday squad this morning. So Scotland under-20s cap Duncan Hood comes in from the off. There is a first Super 6 start from Matthew Woodward, once on the books at Sale Sharks and Saracens. He's alongside Hood at tight head prop. And the Rudy Brown Dalton Redpath second row pairing that was so impressive last time out is rolled out again by Bruce Ruthven. Bruce Ruthven in the coach's box, Bruce Millar in the commentary box. Welcome along, Bruce, great to have you with us. How do you see this one panning out? It's been a tough campaign for the Knights so far.
Yeah, well, this is actually the first time I will have seen both of these sides this season, or this sprint series, so I'm very much looking forward to it. You've got to say that on form you would expect, and with home advantage, the Boroughmuir Bears will very much be favourites in this. I think I'll be going over old ground that have already been covered in previous weeks if we went into why the Southern Knights are struggling. But I suppose for them, that's the beauty of this sprint series. They've got a chance, and over the next couple of games to keep developing their game plan, their players' understanding of it. You know, new coach, lost a number of players, so hopefully this just stands them in good stead for when the season proper comes around.
Yeah, it's a balmy afternoon in Edinburgh. A day for the shorts. Goodness me, he should get a contract somewhere. Day for the shorts and the sunglasses, and a healthy crowd in southwest Edinburgh today, inside Meggetland. As I say, a rematch of the final round of the pre-split fixtures between the Bears and the Knights. The Bears comfortable victors, 31 points to 18, 5 tries to 3 they scored. And the Knights still seeking that maiden win of the tournament. They've taken some sore ones in the sprint series to date. Just 1 point from 5 matches, minus 103 points difference in the table. And they were comprehensively outgunned at Meggetland last Friday. So many big names in Knights ranks have moved on over the summer. some to other franchises, some have stepped back from the semi-pro game entirely. Only 7 of the 23 who started against the Bulls at the Damhealth Stadium in that final back in October are currently around and available to Bruce Ruthven right now. It is a very young Knights team, this, and it is being asked to learn at this level on the job. What do you expect from the Knights today, Bruce?
Difficult to say. Again, they'll just look to get a little bit better every week and try and grow confidence. I've no doubt they will come here knowing that they can win or expecting that they can win, but there'll have to be something changes hugely. The figures that you just read out would suggest to me that they'll have to start with their defence. They're neither scoring enough tries and they're conceding too many tries, and so you've got to improve both sides of that equation. But I think the sensible place to start would be to ship fewer points. So I imagine they will again have been working on their defence during the week. Interesting, some of the things that you said. They're a very young squad, but what struck me across this whole sprint series is how many youngsters are across all of the squads. I commentated with Kenny Murray a few weeks ago, and obviously with his involvement with the under-20s, he said how pleased he is that these players are being just thrown in there, given a chance. You mentioned, I think, Liam McConnell for Boroughmuir Bears today, the Scotland under-18 captain, and I am amazed how well these guys have just been dropped into this and just ducked to water. You would not can guess the age of some of these guys. So I'm not sure the Southern Knights will use the age of their squad as an excuse. They maybe lack 1 or 2 more experienced players that they'd like to have there, but I think the bigger issue is just the changes we mentioned, both in the coaching staff and the playing squad, and just is taking longer to gel than they perhaps would have hoped.
Here come the Bears then. Competitive last season without getting the results to match their performances. Took them a while to get points on the board in the sprint series as well, but they are certainly up and running now. 2 from 2. Stirling County pipped at Bridgehawk, the Knights smited at home, and they will back themselves certainly to do the double over their guests from the south today, as we watch Hamish Bain going through his paces. A Glasgow Warrior, 7 appearances for the professional team, and he was a mighty performer last weekend. So too Harry Mercer, the Bears fly half, who ghosted over for their 2nd try of the evening 8 days ago, and that is Liam McConnell alongside him in the blue scrum cap on the left of your picture. Very highly rated prospect. Martin McGinley, one of those to add his significant bulk to the Bears pack today. 130 kilos, the tight head prop. And he will be up against Grant Shields, who is one of the wiliest scrummagers in this competition. Plenty of ammunition in that Bears pack. And Murray Johnston, wearing 9, recovering from an injury that forced him off in the first half last weekend. Back in the saddle at scrum half, one of the more experienced competitors in the Super 6. And adding that seasoned nous that he brings to the many youngsters around him. Robbie McCallum watching on, perhaps his last outing as a Boroughmuir player. He'll be in London in the next couple of weeks. But he has his eyes on the prize today, as Grant Shields, stand-in skipper, brings out the Knights. It's a slow and purposeful trot from the Borderers, and they will have revenge on their minds after the way they were put to the sword at Meggetland last time out. Ross Maben, 24-year-old from Langham, is in charge of proceedings today. He's been involved in Women's Six Nations matches and on the Sevens World Series as well in recent campaigns. And we are almost ready to go in Edinburgh. So a lovely backdrop in Scotland's capital city. And here we go. The bottom 2 in the FOSROC Super 6 Sprint Series go head to head for the 2nd time in 8 days. And already an error from Rudy Brown trying to bring that restart under control. It is Knights ball. And it is Murray Redpath who gets his first touch. Andrews underneath it, and he is hit hard, manages to keep it in play. Bain shovels it on well. And the first stretch of the legs for Joe Jenkins, the former Knights, Australia-born winger, plenty sevens experience as well with Wales. Johnston, Tom Brown in the line. Good carry. McConnell in the van. Brown at first receiver. Now Hamish Bain gets away from Borthwick. Number 8 clings on well. And it's a Bears penalty.
This player here must roll away, that's how you've got the space. You're on top of the ball.
I think you can see already how confident Boroughmuir feel coming into this game from that kick by the Knights, and I'm not sure how that was not a knock-on from the restart. We'll need to have a look at that again, but from the kick, I think normally we'd expect the receiving team might have just set something up, but they're happy to throw the ball fairly loosely, to be fair, out the back door and looking to just attack. Although the game's only a minute old and they've found themselves now a fantastic position down in that Knights 22.
It's a super touch finder from Harry Mercer, torpedoing towards the corner with that left boot. Nothing Kieran Clark, the Knights fullback, could do about that one. And the first throw of the afternoon in his first start at semi-pro level for Jerry Blythe Lafferty. Excellent off the bench last weekend. Just 18 years old.
No!
And it's well taken down by Ferry. And Blythe Lafferty has his eyes on the try line here. Trying desperately to keep his feet. The maul still trundling on. Dalton Redpath gets a meaty forearm in there. But he's coming from the side. Blythe Lafferty squirming and contorting his body.
Short, boys, short, short!
Short, says Ross Maben. And we will go back for the penalty.
Side entry number 3. Number 3.
What start that would have been for Jerry Blythe Lafferty, playing in the Boroughmuir under-18 team. Won the National Youth Cup just a couple of months ago. It's his first start. Finds his man at the line out, comes round and can only be a few inches short there. He might get another chance because Boroughmuir, not surprisingly, just opted to kick to the corner again, and that Southern Knights maul defence just looked a bit shaky there.
Yeah, he only turned 18 in February, Jerry Blythe Lafferty. One of the youngest players in the FOSROC Super 6. And his dart is a good one. Into Ferry. And Blythe Lafferty just loses it on the deck. Just a little fumble as the ball was transferred back to the hooker. And it all gets a little untidy. Dalton Redpath, surprise, surprise, at the heart of the tumult. Uncompromising customer. And he is admonished by Ross Maben. That's enough of that, please.
Got a knock on at the back of the maul.
That's a missed opportunity for the Boroughmuir Bears there, Bruce. The maul, the first time, looked very, very promising. The second time, just the coordination lacking.
Lads, 6 shoulders
yes,
out
and
straight all the time, please.
It's something that I think all the teams will want to improve on. I mentioned that in commentary last week. I was watching 2 games and none of the sides I think are clinical enough there. It's a fantastic opportunity in the modern day rugby. If you can get your maul set from the line out that close, I'm not saying you should score every time, but I think the Super 6 sides should be scoring more often, and Boroughmuir had 2 cracks at that and have failed on both occasions.
It's perhaps just the difference between semi-pro and full-time pro. It's a mighty scrum from Boroughmuir, and Harry Borthwick is in all sorts of trouble, running into the back of his own scrummage. He's done well to fight and stay the right side of the try line, but it is an unenviable position for Murray Redpath, and he has extricated himself and his team from it pretty well. Brown underneath it. Well tackled by Derrick. Johnston into Bain. Gets that big fend going. Redpath drags him down. And brilliant jackling over the ball. And the Southern Knights have the penalty. Duncan Hood and Wallace Nelson were both in there. And that is an important little mini win for the Knights. Their line intact and a penalty won.
It was interesting from the scrum on their own line. I'm not sure where Harry Borthwick was going, but he eventually managed to get the ball back, and it was actually a cracking kick by Murray Redpath. Got height on it, allowed the 2 Southern Knights chasers to get underneath, and they made the tackle. Boroughmuir Bears were solid. They did well to get players back and secure that first breakdown, but they were going backwards at that stage. So for me, that all came from the clearance kick of Murray Redpath.
So from one young front row to another, Duncan Hoods wasn't supposed to be playing today, but he has nailed his first throw. And here is Wallace Nelson. Tear away open side flanker. Redpath for Rudy Brown, playing for Scotland under-20s at the age of just 18. But he has been pilfered on the deck. Martin McGinley of all people was in there. Now McConnell sizes up Derek and gets the shoulder going. Wallace Nelson is offside, so the Bears have a freebie and they're going to need it.
Back for the penalty. Yeah. Number 7 offside. Just on the halfway.
Mercer arrowed a fabulous touch finder in at the corner for that first series of lineouts. This one doesn't make quite the same grounds, but it is still the lion's share of possession and territory for the Boroughmuir Bears. And another prime opportunity to attack.
Just hold him, Sammy. There's 2 balls. Yeah, 2 balls.
And that came from Southern Knights in possession. They went through a couple of phases, just not secure enough at their own breakdown and ball turned over. And that's how you find it hard to get yourself out your half.
No!
Ferry collects. And once more, Blythe Lafferty locks and loads at the back of that maul. And away he goes blind. Johnston, good footwork from the scrum half. Shovels it inside to Scott McGinley, the captain. 8 or so metres out. McFeet Smith, good hands to Bain. Chamberlain brings him down. Mercer. McCallum, swooping ball towards Brown. It was a bouncing ball that forced the veteran to check. It's another Bears penalty. No clear release from Aidan Cross. And then Wallace Nelson compounding it with another infringement.
I thought the first Knights player in there got hands on the ball and maybe on long enough. I think the second player, certainly I agree with Ross Maben. He shouldn't have been in there. But, well, again, it's one of these ones you'd quite like to see again. That was my gut instinct at the start. But if that ball, it was the bouncing pass from Boroughmuir Bears, if that had gone to hand, I think the Southern Knights defence was just ever so slightly too tight. There was space out wide, but it was that pass that brought the play to a halt for Boroughmuir.
No!
Assault number 3 from the Boroughmuir Bears pack. This one looks more promising. The legs pumping. The body position's good. Blythe Lafferty poised to score and does. A moment the teenage hooker will cherish forever. His first Super 6 start and his first try as a semi-professional player.
Well, they had a couple of chances on the other side of the pitch from a similar position. Weren't able to get over on those occasions, but they got that one absolutely right. You see the ball come in from Blythe Lafferty, the 18-year-old, taken cleanly. They get it quickly to the back. The maul's well set, and once again the Southern Knights maul defence just looks all over the place. And the teenager scores. As you say, he'll remember that forever. Though, as he was walking back, he didn't even have a smile on his face. It just as if he does it every week.
Front row players aren't allowed to celebrate, are they?
He'd be smiling inside.
So Harry Mercer, with the wind at his back, aims to turn 5 points into 7, and he's spooned that one a little. Something of an awkward lob wedge from the fly half. So 5-0 it remains, 10 minutes played, and a very promising start from the Boroughmuir Bears. They've had all the ball and all the possession. Not a great restart from the Boroughmuir Bears, but it's worked out for Jenkins, and he shovels it inside to Andrews. McConnell was on his shoulder, couldn't free the hands. Ferry out the back to Harry Mercer. He is smashed behind the gain line. Jenkins to Brown. Wild ball And it's an awkward one for Callum Ram to deal with.
First man, he's taking the ball.
Oh, super steal. It's Wallace Nelson again, who's making a real nuisance of himself. Then he lost it. Duncan Munn couldn't do much with it.
He was the first man, he took the ball.
Bit scrappy. You can see Boroughmuir's, Boroughmuir Bears, their ruck speed is brilliant. They're really piling into the ruck aggressively and getting the ball away quicker than the Southern Knights defence can get set. And I think you mentioned in commentary there just a wild pass. There's been one or two of those, but they're certainly looking threatening, the Boroughmuir Bears.
Line it doesn't quite work, but Jerry Blythe Lafferty can't cling on to the overthrown ball. So the Knights will have a scrum in 15 here.
Marks on it, fellas. Should we straight first? Yeah.
This is going to be a key battleground today, Grant. Shields in it at loosehead prop, opposite Martin McGinley. It looked like the Bears had the upper hand in the previous scrum. Matthew Woodward on his near side, the tight head side for the Southern Knights, making his first start for the Super6 team. Played championship rugby with Ampthill and Coventry. And he ought to be a very adept scrummaging prop, having learned his trade in that league.
Certainly built like you would want your tight head prop, as you say, key part of the game. Interesting to see how this scrum goes.
Crouch, bind, set.
Certainly a clean platform for Redpath, and Billy Wara. It's his first opportunity to charge into contact. Well marshalled by the Bears. Redpath slamming into McConnell. Rudy Brown and Woodward going to help out. Shields, options out the back, but he kept the hold of it himself. And Murray Johnston will not be allowed to come in from there.
Play penalty. Here. Tackler must roll. Yeah, but the tackler.
Couple of big carries by Southern Knights there. Billy Wara coming off as first receiver from that scrum, and then Dalton Redpath, but equally big hits in the midfield. I think you mentioned it was Liam McConnell that hit Dalton Redpath. Good to see. Another player that was in that National Youth Cup winning side alongside Jerry Blythe Lafferty. Still hard to believe the age of these guys. It makes me feel very old.
Makes me feel older. I'm 28. Liam McConnell's still 17. He doesn't turn 18 till later on this summer. I believe he was actually training with the 20s this season, despite being captain of the number 18s. They brought him up to train with the 20s, as we catch a glimpse of Rob Moffat, the Southern Knights DOR, in the background. And apparently he won the infamous yo-yo test against his older peers, Liam McConnell. So a very fit young man, very big future. Here come the Knights. Chamberlain, clever manoeuvre. Clark off and running, and Wara smashing into Brown. And all the experience and the prowess of Tom Brown required to halt the marauding Fijian. Nelson for Shields. Scott McGinley gets a powerful shoulder in there. Down the blind side through Redpath. Good footwork from Scott. Duncan Munn tackles his age grade teammate. Nelson off his bootlaces. Stuttering start, did well. Hood. Again, McConnell, big shoulder. Redpath. Nelson, third carry of this set of phases from the Knights' open side. Here comes Scott. Chamberlain out the back. Borthwick running out to win, and it's Harry Mercer with a telling hit. The Knights look to have milked a penalty here as Brown gets the head down. It's loose for Redpath. Deft handling from the scrum half. Chalmers, Kieran Clark. Duncan Munn with the tackle. The Knights racking up the phases. Can they find the fluency and the ruthlessness to make this glorious field position count? That's an important clear out. Oh, but Tristan Andrews wasn't properly cleared out. And the number 8 puts boot to ball. And this will chase the Knights away back. Chalmers can't take it, but Jenkins can. Hamish Bain over the top. Duncan Munn just couldn't gather. Almost a harem-scarum breakaway score for the Bears. But a huge opportunity squandered by the Southern Knights.
The Southern Knights going through umpteen phases down at the Boroughmuir end of the pitch. We're just seeing the replay there, the kick through by Tristan Andrews, the number 8, and well, just the unkind bounce of the ball. It almost worked for the Bears. I think if that one had gone to hand, there were defenders there, and actually when you see it again, I think there are probably more Southern Knights players than Boroughmuir Bears were back. But from defending on their own line, I didn't count the phases, but you got a sense it was probably sort of 10-12 phases, and you know, if you can go through that many, you would hope that the defence starts to break down. And in fact, just the ruck that we saw the turnover at, you could see away to the left, just out of shot, the Boroughmuir Bears defence. There were some holes appearing if Murray Redpath had been able to get that one away. And signs of some shape in that Southern Knights attack from the line out on the stand side of the pitch. Just a simple blocker play to try and hold the defence, and they got it wide. I thought maybe Kieran Clark was just a little bit too lateral and ate up a lot of space for his winger, but they recycled. They played off 9, just hitting the forwards for a few phases and then tried to go wide. So I say there's some shape there from the Southern Knights attack. They'll just be disappointed that they weren't able to go through another 2 or 3 phases.
Yeah, they were hammering at the door with the Knights, but unable to force it open deep in that Bears 22. Haven't seen too much of Cameron Scott and Robbie Chalmers in possession yet. The youngest of the 3 Chalmers brothers, Robbie, former Heriots player as well, played Super 6 for the Edinburgh team. Was actually involved in the World Tens in Bermuda fairly recently as well, playing for the Phoenix club.
Craig Keddy, one of the Boroughmuir Bears water carriers there, the captain.
Yeah, still injured just now, Craig Keddy. Scott McGinley doing the honours as skipper, and the likes of Josh King and young Liam McConnell filling the boots of the captain.
Did you say Ross Maben was 24 years old? He seems to be around for a long time.
Crouch!
Unless he's doctored his own Wikipedia page. Maybe he's 34.
Set!
Big shunt coming on from the Bears, but Borthwick breaks in the nick of time, and Redpath chases Boroughmuir back. Tom Brown, the Scotland international fullback, lands it on Chamberlain, departing Edinburgh in the summer. Wara, broken field run for the Fijian. That's dangerous, but Tom Brown again gets his man, and that is brilliant jackling from the fullback. Billy Wara, the mighty Fijian, isolated, and Brown making hay at the breakdown.
Billy Wara looking dangerous as he got into his stride there, but once again the Southern Knights just half a second too slow to the breakdown. Just the one Boroughmuir Bears player there, but that's all you need. And that's 2 or 3 occasions that the Knights have just not been secure enough at the breakdown.
I'm reminded watching Tom Brown and his sort of little and large duel with Billy Wara of the 1872 Cup games a few years ago, where Tom Brown was heroically sticking his head in the spokes of Tangeli Naiyaravoro, the massive Fijian Australian winger from Glasgow Warriors, 130, 140 kilos. There's a YouTube tribute video to Brown's heroic borderline kamikaze defending on that day as Edinburgh won the 1872 Cup. And he's still putting it out there.
He's never been found wanting in the bravery stakes when it comes to defence.
Another clean line out for the Bears, their 4th of the game. Mercer to Andrews, spearing between Derek and Chamberlain. Martin McGinley in there to help. Sam Derrick ordered to leave it. Johnston for Bain. Another man with an interesting summer ahead, being let go by Glasgow. Mercer, McCallum to Munn, just couldn't free the hands, then gets it away. Jenkins, dangerous on the couple of occasions he's had the ball. This is Ewan Ferry, one of the contracted Glasgow Academy players. Johnston, the snipe, and he's away. An enormous chasm in that Knights fringe defence, and Murray Johnston takes full advantage. Second try to the Bears.
I was just about to say, watching that the Southern Knights defence again were defending, I thought, just a little bit too tight and leaving space out wide, but of course on that occasion they've not got it right round the breakdown. We just see the replay here. Boroughmuir Bears making ground through the forwards, and the Southern Knights defence just not getting right there at all. Is it Dalton Redpath, I think, just standing behind?
Yep. I think Duncan Hood, the hooker, expected Redpath to come on his left shoulder rather than round behind him, which is why he perhaps stepped away from the breakdown as Harry Mercer knocks over the extras.
And the conversion from Harry Mercer leads us now Bears.
That came from the line out, a huge carry by, was it Tristan Andrews perhaps, went through between Sam Derrick and Nathan Chamberlain. You might want your blindside flanker to have got in the way of him and stopped him a little bit sooner, and from that moment on Boroughmuir Bears just working their way towards the try line. We'll hopefully get one more look at the try. We'll see that perhaps at half time, but we're back to the action.
Murray Johnston's first Super 6 try, as Liam McConnell copped a sole as he went into contact, but Murray Johnston, uncommonly for this team and for this division, 31 years old. Oh, he's fumbled that one though. He's recovered pretty well, but Colleen Barreto was Bears' go-to man at scrum half last season. He won himself a contract with the Scotland Sevens, and Johnston has filled in very ably. And here is the try scorer. Gets it away from Redpath in the nick of time and finds a decent touch under pressure. So the Knights with another good attacking position, and it has been rather the story of their season of failure to make opportunities count and the concession of so many soft tries, and that Johnston score certainly goes down as a soft one as Hamish Bain pinches the ball and McConnell gets it away from Redpath, and you can tell the pedigree of this young man as he leaves a couple of Knights in his wake. Johnston, that's awkward, and Clark kicks it against Aidan Cross, which is an offside offence. Ross Maben with a little sorting out to do. He has given the Bears the line out, but again, just that cohesion and coordination lacking.
Yes, a Southern Knights line out in the Boroughmuir Bears half. I'm not going to say it was a brilliant attacking position, but at least it was. They were on the front foot, and now they find themselves a couple of mistakes later. Now with a defensive line out on their own 10-metre line. They're just, it's hard to put your finger on everything. They're just little pieces of that Southern Knights puzzle not quite in place. You get a sense that it could click, but certainly for now, not a lot going right for them.
Blythe Lafferty to the tail, and this time it is his radar that's malfunctioning, and Nelson who brings it away for the Knights. Redpath, Chamberlain, Chalmers, dusty ball. Wara has done remarkably well to keep that in and tow it into his own hands. Brilliant skill from the Fijian. This is Hood. Clever little shoulder ball to Shields. Blythe Lafferty gets hands on it. Doesn't quite withstand the clean.
He didn't quite commit to that, Blythe Lafferty. He won a turnover there.
He looked just a little concerned at who was going to be coming to smash him off that ball. Woodward. Ferry and McConnell set up the maul and will try and sook that ball in, and they've done so. Woodward isolated, the ball cocooned, and Liam McConnell once again making his presence felt.
Yeah, Matthew Woodward in his first start for the Southern Knights. Big physical guy. We spoke about that at the scrum a few minutes ago, but just far too high into contact there. Grant Shields in desperately trying to get the ball back from him. but unable to do so, which of course means it's a turnover. The Bears scrum.
It was on the books at a couple of Premiership clubs down the road. Was Matthew Woodward on the right of your picture there, wearing 3. Was in the system at Sale Sharks and Saracens, and then went on to a couple of decent stints at various Championship clubs, including Ampthill and Coventry. Just caught on his own on that occasion.
Second. Seconds. Crouch. Harry.
The Bears have had the edge at scrum time so far.
Set.
What will the men from the capital try and launch here? Clean for Johnston. McCallum at first receiver. Mercer on the loop. Brown. Jenkins. Coming across hard was Aidan Cross, who scored a double here last weekend. Mercer. Awkward for Andrews, but he takes it well. Johnston now. Brown. Ram to Brown again. There was a Knight's hand on that. Ross Maben hasn't seen it.
It's a line out, we haven't seen it. It's a line out.
Well, that looked like a fairly clear knock on, but neither Ross Maben nor Johnny Perriam, his near side assistant, have got eyes on that.
Fellas. We've just got a boot coming to pieces, so time's off.
Yeah, Cam Scott says Aidan Cross, I beg your pardon's right paw coming through the tackle there.
Yeah,
With the referee and his assistant right on the spot there, I'm not quite sure how they didn't see that, but I think they've dodged the bullet. For me, that was going to be well, it's probably a deliberate knock on, but it will be the line out instead. But Boroughmuir Bears, again, to repeat what I said earlier, they're playing at quite a pace. But the ball wide, and again, both sides using it, just a very simple blocker play in the midfield just to try and hold them and then go wide, but very, very quick to the breakdown. The Bears brought it back, hit up in the midfield, and then as the Southern Knights players were folding round, there was a hint of a mismatch on the left-hand side, and Boroughmuir Bears brought it back the way they'd come from. Southern Knights managed to shut it down on that occasion, but I'm impressed by the pace the Bears are playing at.
They've got 3 try bonus points this season from their 5 Sprint Series games of the Bears, as Bain almost nicks another one. Nelson dealt with by McConnell. Grant Shields and Rudy Brown protecting Redpath. And Jenkins wanted that to go straight out. Again, a little consternation between the crowd and the officials, but they do get it right in the end. Johnny Perriam on the spot, and back we'll go to where Redpath launched that box kick. And it's another unforced Knights mistake.
Yeah, that's a shame, because it was a decent kick, just didn't quite get the direction right from Murray Redpath, and did an excellent clearing kick that we spoke about in the early stages of the game from the other side of the pitch. He has got a good kicking game, but didn't quite work on that occasion.
Mercer to Andrews. The show on the step. And Johnston drawing the penalty from a lazy Knights runner. So a freebie for the Bears. And they can't make
Lads, there's a knock
much
on there.
use of
We'll
it.
come back for the penalty for offside. 6 offside.
And that is a 5th Southern Knights penalty in 26 first half minutes. And it's another really cheap one to concede.
Option, fellas.
Again, probably comes from the pace that Boroughmuir were playing at. They're desperately trying to reorganise their defence. Players coming back, and as you say, Murray Johnson sensed he had the opportunity to milk a penalty there.
Option, boys.
Mercer's launched that dead.
Scrum. Yep.
Not that he believes
Scrum.
the correct decision was reached there, but he gave it a fair old lick into the breeze and just was a little too ambitious. So the Knights off the hook here.
Again, just a wasted opportunity. That's where the Bears' first try came from. Just a line out 5 metres or so out.
Are these little mistakes just the difference between semi-pro players and guys who are doing it full-time, day in, day out?
Crouch!
I think that's probably a fair comment. I'm just trying to think back to some of the other games I've watched in the sprint series and whether it's also the difference between the teams in the bottom half of this split and the top half of the split, and I think there's a bit of both.
Redpath clears it away to Scott, who has a serious left boot on him. And that's an awkward one for Brown. Wara plays football. Brown makes a good stop in the end, but it will be a Knights line out. And that's an excellent yardage gain for the visitors. And that's the value of having a player like Cam Scott at second receiver, who can kick for distance, who can break the line. Just take the pressure off Nathan Chamberlain a little, particularly when one's a right footer and one's a left footer.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think back to what we're saying there about the wasted opportunity, and I don't know, can I imagine a Lee Miller making that mistake, or a Jason Baggett, or a Bruce Houston, and I'm not so sure.
It's another botched line out from the Knights through the arms of Redpath. Martin McGinley gobbles it up.
And stop,
Mercer
stop.
caught ever so slightly late, but he got the kick away well. Wara for Clark. Counter-attack is on for the Knights, and Clark scythes between the Bears defenders. Just caught by Murray Johnston. Good counter-ruck from the Bears to slow things down and make a real mess of that Knights possession. And now if they shift it, there might be a chance. McConnell, great hands to McFeet Smith. Oh, and Ferry, it's worked, it's hear 'em, scare 'em, champagne rugby. Johnston tracking through the middle, and it was just tickled forward on the deck.
It's a knock-on before that, lads.
That was chaotic, but it was brilliant to watch.
Enough, thank you, enough.
Superb from the Boroughmuir Bears. The support play, superb. Always somebody on hand to take that offload, just a knock-on when you felt that they were going to score from that. But going back, I mean, Kieran Clark taking the kick, the counter-attack was superb from the young Southern Knights fullback. Perhaps had an opportunity to give it to his winger, Billy Wara, but took it into contact. Once again, Southern Knights are just half a second too slow to the breakdown. Boroughmuir Bears more physical, counter-ruck and win a ball, where the Southern Knights should have been setting themselves up for an attack in the Bears' half.
Yeah, it's the first time the Southern Knights have really broken that Bears defence. Stressed it significantly, but the Boroughmuir boys responded superbly with that counter ruck. Scrum crumbles. Ross Maven wants another look at it.
Just the far side, I'm going to go across. You get your height and your bind up, please.
First scrum never moved much, but since then the Boroughmuir Bears have very much had the upper hand. And again, it's then difficult to deal with from here, because the Knights obviously thinking of a clearance. They've half a Boroughmuir on top of them. If their scrum's going backwards, does Harry Borthwick pick up and try and set up another phase?
Bind! Set!
Feet Smith burrowing underneath Woodward, and the Knights again are splintered. Who on earth's going to come up with this ball? Wallace Nelson is the answer, and away goes the young open sides. McConnell drags him down. Redpath, front foot ball for the Knights. Scott puts a toe to it, and it is gobbled up by the Boroughmuir Bears as Borthwick puts a hand through. McConnell. Another Bears penalty.
How you can't play the ball if he's lying there?
Yeah, it's Duncan Hood not rolling away, allowing Nelson to get on that jackal.
Borthwick did try to pick up from the scrum, but it was such a mess, I don't think he was able, and it was Wallace Nelson who did great work to get the Southern Knights on the front foot. They go wide, and was it Cameron Scott, I think, just tried to put a little ball through, and again, I'm not saying it was the wrong thing to do. If the execution had been better, it might have worked out okay. But again, they can't get out their half. They can't get out their 22, because from that they then concede the penalty. Boroughmuir, of course, kicked back down into the 22, and it's just these errors, if you like, just keep compounding themselves from the Southern Knights.
Well, the upshot is more red zone ball for the Boroughmuir Bears. There's Blythe Lafferty's throw. It's very good. Ewan Ferry takes. And the Bears look to get the rumble running again. The Knights have done well to infiltrate that and halt the first shove. And the Bears will do well to get the ball out of here, because Blythe Lafferty has been ransacked. Dalton Redpath all over him, and that is a much improved Maul defence from the Borders franchise.
Far better organisation there, and Dalton Redpath, he's come through a couple before, but with less organisation, if you like, behind him, whereas there he was able to get through, get his hands on the ball, and once he gets those big mitts on it, I don't think there was any way that the Boroughmuir Bears were going to get that one back. Ably assisted by Harry Borthwick, so it could have been dangerous for the Knights.
Runs his own road surfacing company in the Borders, does Dalton Redpath, when he's not infiltrating mauls and charging into contact. They've been a pretty effective second row pairing, Redpath and Rudy Brown. And that Bears scrum is wreaking havoc again, and Redpath is assaulted at the base. McGinley was in there, Scott McGinley. Redpath once more having to protect.
Use it, lads.
Grant Shields. Bags of experience with Edinburgh, London Scottish, Newcastle Falcons as well. Not a lot of protection for Redpath here. And unsurprisingly, not a lot of ground either. Duncan, who didn't perhaps stand close enough to the scrum half to obstruct those charging through. And the Bears can pile on the pressure again.
Let's go, please, guys. Come on.
They just look a little bit lost, for want of a better term there, the Southern Knights. There's no urgency to get anything set up. I'm not saying it has to be urgent there, they just need to be secure. But everybody, just the players round the breakdown just didn't look entirely sure what was happening.
Scott McGinley, and here's the showstopper McCallum. This time cut down brilliantly in the tackle. McFeet Smith rumbling forward with ominous intent. Johnston for Martin McGinley.
Advantage.
Just the man you want in a tight space. Another Bears penalty should they need it. Andrews next to carry. Johnston.
Still penalty advantage.
Blythe Lafferty. This time it's Jenkins off his wing, looking for work, hungry for ball. Mercer, chip and chase. Where on earth is this going to bounce? It trickles over the dead ball line.
Advantage, come back for the penalty.
The Bears knew, and Mercer knew, he had a penalty advantage to play with.
10, 12 and 13 all offside in front of the back foot. Back line offside. All in front of the back foot. Yeah. Option, fellas.
Matthew Woodward's wilting in the Edinburgh sunshine here. Touch of cramp for the experienced tight head prop. It is his first start of the season. He hasn't had a huge volume of game time, and this game has been played at a pretty high tempo for certainly for the Boroughmuir Bears. What do you expect the Bears to do here, Bruce? Because they could stretch their lead to 3 scores, or are they going to continue to put the pressure on and hunt for that third try?
I'm not sure. What I would just kick for post, to be honest, and just rack up more points, because they'll already, I know if you look at the scoreboard 12-0, you think there's not a huge amount in it. That's the option that they've taken. But I don't think that they'll feel under a huge threat from the Southern Knights attack at this stage. And if I was in their shoes, yeah, I would just keep taking every opportunity to keep the scoreboard ticking over.
Harry Mercer has banged over 3 more points for Boroughmuir Bears. Just under 3 minutes of the first half remaining, and it is a 3-score gap between the Sprint Series bottom sides.
Use it!
Johnston organises McFeet Smith's legs out, and then finds a good relieving touch.
Line is yours, lads.
Kieran Clark, one of the younger players in Knight's ranks, but he is a stalwart of Melrose Rugby, been involved with the club since he was 8 years old, now 20. And the great Fraser Thompson, who was a real legend of Borders Rugby and Melrose Rugby, had a big hand in mentoring him and preparing him to play at this level. Brown collects, Redpath, Chamberlain, and in goes Wallace Nelson. Good shot from Scott McGinley though. Rudy Brown barrels over the top of Blythe Lafferty, who just has to hang on to a massive quad. Redpath on the loop, Chamberlain. This is Scott, he misses out Borthwick. Suspicion of obstruction and a massive cover tackle. I think it was Liam McConnell again, melting Scott over the touchline.
Cheers, 1 to go.
Yeah, it's Ewan Ferry who comes across and puts that big shoulder in.
Lads, let's go, please.
Showed Scott the outside, encouraged him to take it, knowing he was so close to the touchline.
Again, hints of the Southern Knights just finding a little bit of shape in attack, but once again, what, 2 phases and ball turned over.
In
The
5.
man who won the lineouts
Stay there, 5.
takes the
Don't
lineout.
change.
Ewan Ferry smuggles it back on the Bears side.
Don't change.
Grant Shields has done well to get over there, but Johnston sends it skywards. Jenkins after it, and it was just out on the full. So a little mistake from Murray Johnston, and one final chance before the interval for the Southern Knights to launch an attack, to find something, to send them into the sheds with a burst of positivity.
It's both scrum halves made a similar error there, just kicked the ball out in the full. As you say, it's handed the Southern Knights one last opportunity. I mean, they've only really had one clear opportunity to score, and they'll be very disappointed they didn't, but if they were to go in at half time 15-5, 15-7 down, they'll feel an awful lot better.
Borthwick just manages to squirrel that ball back. Nelson took it on. Redpath, Rudy Brown, tireless carrying of ball, but it is he who's being carried in the wrong direction. Redpath to Woodward, Chamberlain. The Bears up quickly outside Scott, so he has to dip the shoulder and go it alone. Chamberlain, cross. Elusive customer, but McFeet Smith has his number. Nelson. Big tackle from Bain.
Tackle!
Nelson sent backwards. Shields. Again, the defence from McFeet Smith in particular,
Ball there,
excellent.
play, ball there.
Redpath away, Rudy Brown, Chamberlain out the back, Scott, Chalmers, Clark, into Wara, that looked forwards, and indeed it was. And rather fittingly, the first half ends with a Southern Knights mistake. They've been under the pump in this first 40, the Boroughmuir Bears on top, 2 tries and a Harry Mercer penalty on the board. They're halfway towards another bonus point victory, and they are very much in the driver's seat as the players troop off towards the changing rooms. Half time at Meggetland, Boroughmuir Bears 15, Southern Knights 0. Now in this week's FOSROC Super 6 Sprint Series half-time feature, we're off to Stirling. We're heading to Bridge Hawk, in fact, to speak to 2 of the brightest young stars in county ranks. Max Williamson and Angus Fraser will be learning more about their experience in the Super 6 and how the competition is helping their development. Enjoy.
Yeah, I think it's been a great opportunity to put a lot of my training into games. I had 2 years with Glasgow, just training because of COVID. There wasn't a lot of experience in terms of games, so really put what I've been doing and review. It was also just great to be playing with people my age. I've been training a lot of older guys, so really good socially as well. Yeah, it's really helpful speaking to the older guys, especially a lot just like even outside of rugby and life, but also in the game as well. It's been really helpful to sort of see from their perspective, which maybe I hadn't got before with the under-20s, and learn off of them as well.
And has there been any player in particular that's kind of really taken you under their wing, or has it been a collective effort?
I think, you know, you learn different stuff off different people, but Adam Sinclair, Sinky, he's a good one to learn off, especially around set piece. It's been good speaking to James Powell as well. He's good fun to speak to too.
And in terms of, you touched on there about playing with people your own age. Obviously, there's lots of players from Scotland under-20s across the 6 teams as well. So how is it to be playing against them, having been playing with them?
Yeah, it's been really good. You know, obviously because you know them from outside, so it sort of creates a bit of extra competition between you when you're in those games. You want to get the better of them, so you can have a laugh after.
How much impact do you think your time in Super 6 has had up until this point and will have between now and the end of the season in helping you make that next step?
I think it'll be really big. Just getting games under my belt. Still, I've not had a lot of games in the last couple of seasons compared to before COVID. So just keep pushing through on those games, which will allow me to hopefully have a good under-20s tournament and then push on in July.
And just lastly, so you're one of the 5 players to be making the move up to full-time professional with Glasgow next season. Could you just tell us a bit about that and how excited you are for that move?
Yeah, it's really exciting. Sort of the club I've been watching all the way through to going in after lockdown to be training with them. Now to be signing my first contracts, it's really exciting. So just keep pushing on. Hopefully, try and work to get an opportunity at some point.
Well, obviously, you're another one of the players who's making a step up full-time at Glasgow next year. Can you tell us a bit about your move and how excited you are?
Yeah, really excited. I've been in about Glasgow for the last 3 or so years now, and the last couple of years have really kicked on. Had more training in with the senior squad and been in about the environment a lot more. It's a great opportunity to get going in the next couple of years, be able to crack on and train full-time.
How has your time here prepared you for that move?
When I first came to Stirling, I was off my 20s year. I just broke my foot, so it was coming out of injury, and it was really good training here. Got back fit, and just the team in general helped me through that. And then going into the games, it gave me a bit of game time, and just built on that, and yeah, it really helped me out.
In terms of learning from people within Stirling County in the Super 6 environment, how much of that have you picked up over the last couple of years?
The last couple of years had Rayner, captain of the club, great player, great bloke. He learned a lot off him, and also coaching staff like Scott Lawson. He's had however many caps for Scotland. Been able to take so much information from them, and it's definitely helped my game. One
of the big taglines for Super 6 is that it helps to bridge the gap between the sort of top tier domestic rugby and professional. How instrumental has it been for you, and what have you seen that you would say sort of shows that? Yeah, I definitely think it's helped from the academy and getting game time, coming to Super 6 and the level being at high standard. It really helps, definitely. Strong fixtures this weekend as our last game before the split. How has your season gone so far, and what are you expecting from the rest of the tournament? Yeah, I think it's been a bit up and down. We've played some really good rugby, and then we've also had some slips which just either that not going to playing to what we want to play, and it's cost us in vital times. But no, I think we're in a good place. We've got a good game plan, good structure. If we just keep going to that, then we'll be able to keep cracking on.
Well, so heartening and so great to see two of the top young players in this competition thriving at semi-pro level and eager to take their next steps in their rugby careers. But meanwhile at Meggetland, it is the Boroughmuir Bears who hold a 3-score lead at the interval, and we can take you through some of the best of the first half action this afternoon. This was Jerry Blythe Lafferty aiming to get things off and running, and a special moment, Bruce, for the 18-year-old here.
Absolutely. As we said at the time, they had 2 opportunities on the other side of the pitch, weren't able to take any of them. He must have been stopped inches short 2 or 3 minutes before, but no mistake on that occasion from the Boroughmuir Bears. Good line out throw taken cleanly, and they got themselves set up quickly. The Southern Knights maul defence, maybe not everything that you would have wanted there.
Yeah, this is when the Knights were banging at the door, but Kristen Andrews slammed it in their faces, and off he went, and it was all a bit bonkers from then on. Robbie Chalmers couldn't take it, Joe Jenkins could, on to Bain towards Munn, and he just couldn't quite collect, and that would have been an interesting foot race. Yes, there were plenty covering Knights back there, but Munn against Chamberlain, with that amount of prairie in front of him, that could have been very tasty indeed. But again, symptomatic of the Knights' inability to convert pressure into points.
Yes, they'd actually, if we watched the minute or two before that, that was their best attacking spell of the game, and the Boroughmuir defence was just starting to show signs of falling apart when the turnover came.
And that was compounded just a few minutes later when Murray Johnston spotted in his peripheral vision a massive hole emerging in the fringe defence, and this from the Knights' point of view is really soft.
It is, yeah. When we get another look at their defence, they just look a bit disorganised. None of them look very sure what they're doing. You can see Dalton Redpath coming round the corner there. Is that Logan Kirk in the hooker jersey, and just not speaking to each other, not deciding who's got what job.
Yeah, this was a brilliant hit from Ewan Ferry on Cam Scott. Perhaps the first time that the Knights really threatened to break the Bears' defence from phase play rather than from kick receipt. Perhaps a hint of obstruction from Borthwick when Scott tried to pin his ears back, but Ferry measured that all the way, and that's really about as good as it's got for the Knights.
Yes, there was that there. There was a fantastic return. It was the kick from Boroughmuir Bears taken by Kieran Clark, and he had a lovely break up the left-hand touchline. Ball turned over again, as it has been umpteen times in the first half by the Southern Knights, so just unable to build anything. And say that, I think I said in commentary, they just look a little bit lost, not entirely sure what each other are doing at times. And just going back to what I was trying to say about the Murray Johnson try there, you had 2 players. I mean, they'll have very clearly defined roles at every team will call them something different, but that guard, as it's often called, at the side of the breakdown, trying to stop the pick and go, and then the shield, the next one out, sort of assisting there, marking the 9, and then so they'll all have clearly defined roles, and they just didn't seem to know who was doing what job there. And that's not the first time that's happened. There were 2 or 3 occasions they just looked a little bit lost. So there'll be frustration there from the Southern Knights that they give away tries like that. And yes, if we look at the scoreboard, they're not scoring, they're not troubling the scoreboard themselves. As we said at the start, your defence has got to be secure.
Yeah, it's a pretty fatal cocktail for the Southern Knights this season. Too many soft tries at one end, too few scored in the other, and that is why their points difference stands at a pretty grim -103, and that is only worsening as this afternoon's fixture wears on. Well, the Knights out onto the paddock early. Bruce Ruthven's side, the man who took over from Rob Christie in the summer, with Lewis Carmichael and Ross Ford, a couple of Scotland internationals, helping them out. Murray Redpath staying off those hamstrings for another half of rugby. Plenty of excitement about him. Son, of course, of former Scotland captain Brian, younger brother of current Scotland centre Cam. I don't think it'll be too long before we see Murray breaking through in the pro ranks as well. And here comes Callum Ram and the Boroughmuir Bears, eager to press home this 15-0 advantage in the second 40 and and try and make it 3 wins on the spin. A recent upturn in form hasn't quite been enough to force them into the top 3, I beg your pardon, just before the split. With the wins over County and the Knights. But they are hot on the heels of Heriots in 4th place, level on points with them coming into today's fixture. So Nathan Chamberlain gets us back underway. The Knights in the black with a 15-point deficit to try and overturn. And the Knights have made a change at the interval with Duncan Hood coming on for Logan Kirk. Hood was supposed to have his feet up this afternoon, but an early withdrawal from captain Fraser Rennick meant that he comes onto the bench, and he is given 40 minutes of action as Clark fumbles the box kick from Johnston. And the error count grows and grows for the Southern Knights. That's wild from McCallum. Chalmers is onto it, barges past Munn. Andrews got paused to it, and Munn was smart enough to run round the ball rather than picking it up from an offside position.
Kieran Clark, having done very well from a kick in the first half, just didn't judge that one at all well. But in the end, it worked out okay for the Southern Knights. And I was just going to say, I mean, you look at the scoreboard, it's only 15-0, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility that the Knights get themselves back into this. If you hadn't watched the first half, perhaps you would say, well, they're in with a chance, but actually it was much more one-sided as far as I'm concerned than the scoreline suggests. However, if the Southern Knights could score here, it's a very different complexion on the game.
Crouch! Bind! Set!
As field position goes, it doesn't get much better than this. Borthwick, chop tackle from McGinley, and that's put Scott on the back foot, but he has turned a negative into a positive very swiftly. 7 metres out, Redpath into Woodward, fighting for possession, but Liam McConnell, the youngest man on the pitch, with the biggest turnover of the day.
Look, do you want another 10 metres or not?
You can sense the frustration there from the Knights. I'm just listening to Ross Maben saying, do you want March back another 10 metres? Because obviously speaking back, so you're seeing the end of that there, and that's twice that the tight head prop Matthew Woodward has taken it into contact and it's been turned over. I think on one occasion it was turned into a maul. On that occasion he just didn't quite get his ball presentation right, and once again the support play just a little bit slow allowed the Liam McConnell on the blind side to get himself over it. That again all came from the scrum. They're going backwards, difficult for Harry Borthwick. Just throws a loose pass and hits the deck. Nothing quite going right for the Knights.
Probably the outstanding player of the first 43 minutes or so, Liam McConnell. It's been extremely good. Mercer shovels it on to Andrews, who has been that midfield carrying option off first phase. Here is McConnell. Through the tackle of Chamberlain, but not of Derek. McCallum. Duncan Munn. Knocked down by Chalmers. Meaty collision, that one. Ferry. It's better from the Knights. Good shots coming in from the Borderers. Johnston to Brown. The Knights are offside again. And that, I believe, is the 3rd offside penalty the Knights have conceded. It's their 9th of the game. And this lack of discipline is proving crippling.
There's a much more aggressive defence as well, but as you say, 9 penalties, and inevitably Boroughmuir Bears will again just kick back into that Knights half, and it's not a great touch find, that's to be said, so just on the Knights 10 metre line, so not too damaging, but again they just can't get hold of the ball, they can't keep the ball, and they can't get themselves out of the half. It's all too easy really for Boroughmuir Bears. They've not had to do anything really for that 15-0 lead.
I mean, you'll get numbers, you'll get time to adjust.
And the Knights again with that scrum going back to the couple of minutes into the half, unable to make anything of that. If they could just get themselves on the scoreboard, it would do so much for their confidence, and might start to put some doubts into the Bears' minds.
Cleanly taken by Ewan Ferry, and Johnston for Mercer. Andrews once more is asked to do the heavy lifting for the Bears. Johnston, Mercer, McCallum, Out the back to Ram. Brown along to Jenkins, who just manages to take that ball in. Mercer loose from McFeet Smith, who is swallowed up by the wave of aggressive tacklers. Andrews. McCallum looking to prise open the door.
Ball's out, play on!
Untidy ball presentation.
Now leave it on the ground.
Knights will not get back from Martin McGinley. He gets his 130 kilos onto it and draws the penalty.
Leave it.
Harry Borthwick had no business coming in from that angle.
Players directly in the side. I've asked him not to, and he's went in the side.
Well, let's put a positive spin on that, at least from a Southern Knights point of view. They've spoken about their defence. That's a couple of penalties they've given away, and then again that just spills over the frustration, and they are marched back 10 metres. But their defence has been more aggressive in terms of their tackling. Their line speed is better, so they're trying to get up and put pressure on the Bears. So that has been discussed at half time. Let's say it can't then spill over into penalties, because suddenly you find yourself back defending very close to your own line again.
Yeah, it's been a frustrating start to the second half for the Southern Knights. From the shadow of the Boroughmuir Bears post to defending another line out in their own 22. The home side look to turn the screw. McGinley again, who has been an unlikely source of snaffling loose balls this afternoon. He's picked up a couple that have just kept it in Bears' hands. This is McConnell. Ferry goes in behind him. Slow for Johnston. Martin McGinley, good hands to Scott McGinley. The captain steamrolls Billy Wara and gallops in for a third. McGinley to McGinley, and the Boroughmuir Bears pull away through their captain.
And the try for the Boroughmuir Bears was scored by number 7, Scott McGinley, which brings the score at Boroughmuir Bears 20.
Seeing the replay there, taken into contact by Liam McConnell. He was rather driven back, but then the easiest of tries there. Perhaps Southern Knights' defence just slightly too narrow again, and Billy Wara will be incredibly disappointed with that attempt at a tackle. Just didn't get it right at all. It was on his left side. He just didn't look comfortable with it. Got his head in the wrong side. Just never got his feet in the right place. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And again, as you said in commentary, we don't have to go too far back to the Southern Knights having that opportunity from the scrum centre field. Didn't get much better, right in front of the posts. And then 2 or 3 penalties later. Kick to the corner again by the Boroughmuir Bears. And the scoreboard not looking very clever now for the Knights.
Yeah, Scott McGinley, the skipper, the stand-in captain with Craig Keddy injured. A graduate quantity surveyor, and his second Boroughmuir Bears try. Mercer to edge the hosts. Another 2 points ahead. Again, he's got right underneath that one, and it just fades away across the face. But 20-0 the score, still a handsome lead for the Bears. 3 tries in the bag, 1 more required for a bonus point. And the Knights' grip on this game is being loosened by the minute. Taken by Ferry, and then he's clattered in the air. Yeah, Wallace Nelson just a little bit too early with that hit, but it is another penalty. That's number 11 of the afternoon for the Southern Knights have conceded. And it is killing any momentum they're trying to build in this game.
Yeah, 11 penalties in, 49 minutes. Just makes it very hard for any side, because again you see what happens. You just need to put pressure on Boroughmuir Bears there, force them to exit, and then they have the ball from the line out. As it is, they find themselves defending a line out once more on their own side of halfway.
Bain just taps that back, but Johnston let it bounce, and Wallace Nelson hoovered it up. What the Knights got by way of a counter punch. Chamberlain Wara carries with such fury. More fury having missed the tackle on McGinley. Oh, it's awkward. Rudy Brown passes to nobody, and Hamish Bain sweeps it up. Munn, Mercer. This will chase the Knights back under their own posts. Kieran Clark goes after it. Chamberlain alongside. Jenkins hunts him down. Brilliant chasing by Ewan Ferry, the lock forward, to get in there. And the Bears have stolen it back. Ferry gets paws on it. Andrews, options either side. There was a deliberate knock on there, and there will be a yellow card coming out. The Knights at 6s and 7s, and their captain is dismissed for 10.
They just can't keep a hold of the ball, sadly. The Southern Knights, once again, they had possession. And it's lost and kicked long, and Kieran Clark on that occasion couldn't deal with it. I think he gathered it initially, but then was lost. And the Boroughmuir Bears players turn it over, and I think the Knights probably dodged a bullet with a similar infringement in the first half with one of the players, when one of the players stuck a hand out, and for me was a deliberate knock on. No mistake on that occasion. Ross Maben quite right, and sent Grant Shields to the sin bin for 10 minutes. So this makes this doubly hard for the Knights to defend.
The Boroughmuir Bears with the bonus point try in their sights, and a 7-man pack to attack. This maul is on roller skates, and it's a double for the youngster. Jerry Blythe Lafferty gets his second of the afternoon. The Boroughmuir Bears have their bonus points, and this is in danger of becoming a rout.
Very clinical there, the Boroughmuir Bears. Blythe Lafferty has been very good in his first start in Bears colours with his line out throwing, and again just a youngster's dream comes round there. 18 years old, hitting the ball at the back of that maul, which is moving forward with a bit of pace there. Southern Knights a man down, depowered. Grant Shields, one of their better maul defenders, in the sin bin for 10 minutes. A very easy try there for Boroughmuir Bears, and young Jerry Blythe Lafferty now has a brace.
Yeah, 2 Super 6 games for young Jerry, 2 tries to his name. And Harry Mercer, who only converted 1 of the 3 tries so far. Can't quite nail that one either. It's unlikely to matter. The conversion squandered, the opportunity for points goes a begging, but the bonus point is secured, and it is 25-0 with 27 minutes of this game remaining. And Southern Knights are going to make a change at scrum half as well, with Murray Redpath making way. In fact, it's Murray Johnston on the Bears side who's come off, and young Rory Swan who's been introduced. So up it goes. Clark, this time he's safe under the high ball. Chamberlain away from Mercer. Classy from Nathan Chamberlain. Rudy Brown is on his shoulder. Swooping ball to Wara instead. And off goes the Fijian. Wicked sidestep, sits down Scott McGinley. And Wara somehow has freed the arms and got the ball back to Chamberlain. This is Borthwick over the 22. McCallum sticks him backwards. Afshar, who has come on from Murray Redpath. Nelson, Hoods, caught high by Mercer. And we're going to have to stop and just make sure everybody's okay. The Southern Knights are frustrated. I think that the game was stopped so Callum McFeet-Smith could receive some treatment.
Again, much more positive by the Knights. Kieran Clark taking that ball from the Bears' kick and then passed it to Nathan Chamberlain, who I was about to just mention, saying I feel for him a bit, because in the few occasions that the Knights have had the ball, he seems to sense where the space is well, plays with a very cool head, he's got a lovely pass. and you get a sense that he would mix his attack up and bring in his runners nicely if only he had the opportunity, but he got his chance there from broken play. And then the ball went to Billy Wara, who again has looked dangerous on the odd occasion that he's got the ball in his hands. As you say, they'll be frustrated that rightly was brought to a halt there by referee Ross Maven. He thought there was a serious injury.
Martin McGinley's race is run, and it has been quite the race from the big tight head prop.
I'm not sure, to be honest, maybe about 6 minutes.
A really crucial link at times for the Boroughmuir Bears. Rescued a number of loose balls.
Time's on, boys.
Gave a scoring pass as well, so he is off. And Marcus Goodwin, the former Cartha Queen's Park tight head,
let's go, fellas,
is on to replace him. Just his second game for the Boroughmuir Bears. Brandon Sweet as well is preparing to come on in the front row for the home side. And changes up front as well for the Southern Knights because of Grant Shields sin binning. Callum McMillan has had to come on at loose head. The Knights, pardon, just to
bind,
ensure they've got the full complement of front rowers. Boy, do they need something from this position. Afshar, Chamberlain, out the back is Clark. Wara sits down one and then gets bundled into touch. And it's just not happening for Billy Wara. It's just not happening for the Southern Knights.
Again, just so frustrating. The ball from a better scrum, has to be said, from the Southern Knights, a better platform. And the same as they've run from most of their set pieces, I think, just that blocker play, get the ball wide to Billy Wara, and for such an experienced winger, you just want him to stay in the field to play there, recycle the ball and play again.
Mo!
Secure line out again from Ewan Ferry.
9. That's over now. Play on.
The Bears happy to try and go through the middle, but they left the ball behind. Woodward was over the top. So too McMillan. The Bears have had to work really hard to get this back. Ewan Ferry gives them some much needed yardage. Swan bangs it away. And Wara loses it over the touchline. And they can have their pick of scrum or line out the Bears.
Perfectly judged kick there by Rory Swan. It's landed. He put doubt in the mind there of Billy Wara whether he could catch that and stay in the field of play. And he was a bit too late in making his mind up what to do, and did nothing in the end. Stuck his foot on the touch line, stuck his hands out to try and catch it. As you say, he both knocked on and was out the field of play. So option for Boroughmuir Bears here. They're going for the scrum. They've been very secure here. They've been secure. Their set piece has been good. I think they've had a couple of misses at line out time. One they missed completely. One that they took a bit fortuitously at the back. Their scrum has never really been under pressure at all.
More changes for the Bears. At loosehead prop Callum McFeet-Smith has been withdrawn for Brandon Sweet, very experienced Zimbabwe-born loosehead. And speaking of African connections, Connor Allen, son of the former Scotland and Springbok hooker John, is on too at fly half for Mercer. And here he is, first touch for Allen. Munn. Jenkins checked by the bouncing pass.
13, don't hold him in, don't hold him.
Chalmers trying to get out of there. The Bears trying to milk the penalty. McCallum punctures the defensive line. Swan. Brown. Here's Bain. It's those massive legs going. Rudy Brown, good counter ruck. Still the Bears have it. McConnell. Caught round the ankles by Hood. This is Brown at first receiver. McCallum has another crack. Lovely flat ball to Callum Ram, but Scott deals with him. And then the attempted offload is back on the Knight side.
Onside.
Kieran Clark doing good scrambling work. Afshar. McMillan. Goodness me, that is a humongous collision. Big shot coming in from Scott McGinley.
Use it!
And from Hamish Bain. Afshar. Ferry looked to get fingertips to it. Brown. Ram. Running back against the grain. There is space here. McCallum's alongside him. Here's Brown again, stepping in to play that first receiver role more. Swan. Brown. Andrews. Brilliant ball from Andrews. McCallum releases Jenkins. Men on his shoulder. They will not be required. Scintillating handling from the Boroughmuir Bears. And it was all about the Globetrotter style offloads from Tristan Andrews. 30 points now for the home side.
Fantastic try there for Boroughmuir Bears, who look so comfortable in possession. Mixing it up. Just dragging that Southern Knights defence all over the place. And as you say there, as he was lifted in the air, Tristan Andrews, he didn't panic. Basketball style pass over the top into the hands of Joe Jenkins.
Yeah, still got 40 seconds, mate.
Australian, an ex-Southern Knights player. Played for Wales Sevens as well. And just shows his pace as he goes in for yet another Boroughmuir Bears try.
Five tries on the board for the Boroughmuir Bears. Same numbers as they stuck on the Knights last Friday. And just a point shy of the 31 they racked up against this opposition 8 days ago. And this is a first attempt from the tee for Connor Allen, who's just joined us. Like I say, his father John played for Scotland, and of course his elder brother Tommaso played Scotland age grades before choosing to represent Italy, where he was brought up. A familiar surname, one of many on the pitch today. Oh, he's drilled that one. Super conversion from Connor Allen. And with 20 minutes left, it's 32-0.
I'd like to see the Boroughmuir Bears now with ball in hand, because as I said there, their attack shape looks good. They're mixing it up nicely. They're sometimes using their forwards off 9. He went behind there and out into the midfield and then switched sides again. It just makes it very difficult for that Southern Knights defence to organise.
Not messing around too much in this middle third just now either. Content to go long, go deep, and make the Knights conjure something from inside their own half. Afshar, Chamberlain, Scott. Powerful step that, but McCallum bundles him down, and then Afshar loses it on the deck. Big pressure coming in from the Bears forwards, and Afshar couldn't cope with it.
So many little errors from the Knights side, and you're right, you just said that there. It's the pressure coming on from the Bears forwards. Once again, the Knights just not quite secure enough at breakdown time. And that's all it takes, is a player to get sort of knocked backwards and a boot catches the ball or the arm of the scrum half. And there are just so many little areas that if the Knights were able to tighten up on just a wee bit, it would just really transform their game. I suppose the problem is knowing where do you start, because there are so many of those areas.
Bind!
Isaac Brace on it, tight prop for the Knights, replacing Matthew Woodward. So an all-new front row for the visitors, but still clean ball for the Bears. Allen, Munn, Tom Brown in the line. Swan to McCallum. Big looping pass to Joe Jenkins, who got rid of a couple of tacklers, not Cam Scott.
Cam Scott's tackled well all day.
Allen running down a blind alley. Dalton Redpath making sure he goes nowhere. Swan, McCallum, Brandon Sweets. Good hit though from Duncan Hoods. The Knights thought they were due a penalty there. It's Duncan Munn, I beg your pardon, piercing through again. Up to the 22. Tom Brown takes it on a bit further. Covering work from Hood. McConnell. Sizing up Wallace Nelson.
Onside, boys.
Swan. Allen. Good step and rumble
Tackle!
from Marcus Goodwin. Allen again, lovely distribution, and McCallum revs the engine. Upshaw with a crucial tackle.
The counter-ruck's fine.
It's becoming a really scrappy contest, that breakdown area, as Sweet steals a couple of metres. Allen has to get it out his hands, and he does, and it opens up for the Bears again, but the pass is a dusty one from Ram to Brown, and the old-timer could see the try line beckoning had the ball just been a little cleaner.
That's all it would have taken. It was a lovely pass by Connor Allen under a huge amount of pressure. He knew where the space was and where he wanted to get the ball, and his pass was fine. It was just the next pass that wasn't quite accurate enough. And the Southern Knights defence frantically trying to get across to cover it, and I just feel if that ball had gone to hand, it may well have been another Boroughmuir Bears try.
Well, there won't be a hat-trick for Jerry Blythe Lafferty. The young hooker withdrawn for another teenager in the Bears front row ranks. Finn Durai, the Loreto school pupil. He did score a hat-trick, by the way, in the recent National Schools Shield final. One of 4 hookers that the Bears have used this season, all aged 19 years old or younger. Corey Tate has been so impressive for much of the season. He's rested today. This is a precautionary measure. So Durai on. Tristan Andrews' race is run as well. We're just seeing him get patched up there, but Aubrey Manoub is preparing to come on, and Ewan Stewart has replaced Hamish Bain in the second row too.
Yeah. Cheers, Root. For him. For that fit.
It's been a feature of this sprint series, unfortunately, that around about this point in the match, everybody makes their changes. And again, go back to your point that you made earlier about, is this the difference between the full professional sides and this semi-professional level, that you don't really lose anything at that stage, and the guys coming off the bench make an impact, and sometimes and they should really add to the game, whereas for now in this sprint series we've found that the game kind of loses a bit of its edge and intensity for a while. So let's see what happens today.
No!
The Knights then playing for pride, playing to avoid being nilled for the first time this season. They've taken some heavy defeats. What have they got left in the tank? Kieran Clark burning away from Munn. And unfortunately for the Knights, the referee had just called advantage over. Chalmers has it back though, and he is forced into touch. And that was just unfortunate timing for the Knights as the inside ball was thrown. Ross Maben called penalty advantage over, and it was taken in by a Bears player.
7.
You can see there that, again, Southern Knights being forced to play from anywhere now, but they've got some quality players in there. Nathan Chamberlain, Cameron Scott, Robbie Chalmers, Kieran Clark, just not quite able to combine and put it all together. They've got the raw materials there, certainly in some of the positions.
A lovely moment just out of shot as Robbie McCallum is being clapped off and given a rousing ovation for what could well be his final match as a Bear. Ronan Kerr is on. This is Ewan Stewart, the Aberdonian, who's listed in contacts.
There's a knock on here and then it's a forward pass. We're back to the black scrum.
Bears replaced number 12 Robbie McCallum with number 23.
Ball dislodged in the tackle by the Knights there, and it was unfortunate for them that as the ball bounced, it was just flicked on and the pass was forward. As often in those situations with turnover ball, you find you're up against a very disorganised defence, and it might have been just a hint of a chance for the Knights there.
A couple more changes for the Knights as well. Callum Rennick is on in the back row for the visitors. He's replaced Wallace Nelson, who's been a busy presence at open side flanker this afternoon, albeit perhaps hasn't been as influential as he would have liked, but certainly at the heart of a lot of good things that the Knights have done. And Kieran Clark as well, the fullback, is off, with Zach Smith, a versatile customer, coming on to replace him.
Yeah, Wallace Nelson's had a good game. He's tackled well, and when he's got the ball in his hands, he's certainly carried hard. Away goes Harry Borthwick.
Well, Borthwick thrown down by McConnell illegally, but boy has he sprung up again, and poor old Tom Brown has to play the role of speed bump. Fine tackle it was.
Come back for the penalty for the high tackle.
And Ross Maven's going to bring them all the way back for McConnell's high shot.
He's a real athlete, Harry Borthwick. Out of Berwick originally, spent a bit of time at Melrose and then at Gala, and then in the north of England. And you'd like to see a player like that with more ball in his hands, because he's very athletic, he's very quick. Mistake there from the kick though.
Yeah, Chamberlain's overcooked that one. And that's a waste. And these are the mistakes that are killing the Southern Knights this season. Harry Borthwick needs a little bit of patching up after the high one from McConnell. He was such an omnipotent presence for the Knights last season as they surged to the Super 6 final back in October, beaten narrowly by the Bulls in the end up, but Harry Borthwick, one of their key protagonists over the course of the campaign, was in the offside lines team of the season, one of the Scottish rugby outlets that covers the Super 6 in detail.
He's a player who thrives though when his side are on the front foot and winning ball. He's not having to do all that dirty work. That's not his thing. He doesn't want to be in the breakdowns. He wants to be out in the midfield, out in the wide channels, getting his hand on the ball. And I think, to be fair, that's where the Knights would rather he was as well. He spent most of today trying to pick up from the base of a retreating scrum, which is just not his game. Russell Anderson there in the water just on the right of the screen, another player that the Knights will be badly missing.
See you coming off, Drew?
Yeah, so many players who are not available to the Knights anymore through injury, through transfers to other franchises to move up to the capital city. The likes of Jason Baggett now starring in Edinburgh.
Time on, boys.
But you can run the gamut of that 23 that featured in the final only not even 10 months ago.
Let's go, please, lads.
And so many are
we've got 8 players.
Not at Bruce Ruthven's disposal. It is a callow team, this, but it is giving the platform to so many young players to test themselves in the semi-pro ranks, to try and take that next step on the Scottish rugby ladder.
Bind! Set!
Maroob has a little break himself and whips it away to Swan. Cleverly disguised pass that's bought the Bears some yards. Rudy Brown disruptive at the base. Connor Allen has done well to escape his attention. But that's great jackling. Really good work from Callum Rennick. And away they go. Dalton Redpath, of all people, with the tap and run. Chamberlain. And now Sam Derrick. Goodness me. Sitting down Joe Jenkins, who did well to cling on. This is Rudy Brown. Afshar. Chamberlain. Scott. Beautiful ball towards Wara. Did go backwards, and Aidan Cross. It's the engine revving. Great tackle from Durai to hang on to an ankle. Brace out the back to Chamberlain. And this is Duncan Hood. Brilliant swerve from the hooker. Off goes Duncan Hood. This is sensational. Outrageous. He wasn't due to be playing today, but Duncan Hood, like a runaway warthog, comes searing off the bench and bamboozles the Bears. What a score.
That's an outstanding try by the replacement hooker. I'm sure he'll love your description of the warthog. You see him as he gets his hands on the ball there. He just had a look up, stepped off his right foot. And that Boroughmuir defence opened up in front of him, but he still had a huge amount of work to do. Great footwork by the hooker.
That's a Scotland fullback he sidestepped on the way to the try line. It's Tom Brown, who's been excellent all day today, and he's stood up and wrong-footed by a 20-year-old hooker off the bench. Wow.
It's a wonderful reading of the situation and the defence, so I don't know if we'll get another chance to look at that, perhaps from behind, to see the view from his eyes. as he got that ball, because I think a lot of players would just have shovelled that on and not risked anything, but he saw there was half a gap there, and he must have stepped 4 or 5 players to get to the try line. Here we go, back it comes. The little ball out the back door there. Chamberlain, who I'd love to have seen with more ball in his hand, and he could have just shoveled the ball on there, but he decided to cut back inside. Strength, pace, and then one last sidestep, as you say, of a former Scotland fullback, and scores under the post. Fantastic play by the replacement hooker.
Can we give him player of the match just for that try?
We probably ought to. Runaway warthog, was that the description?
Yeah, it's been used to describe Akker van der Merwe in the past as well, who plays for Sale, and the Springboks, brother of Duhan, who has a similar low centre of gravity and balanced running style. But what a score for Duncan Hood. And that, meanwhile, is an excellent steal. Findurai doing the more conventional work of a hooker. Allen, Scott McGinley. Well, let's come off the toes. Where on earth is this one going to land? Just too much on it. With Ronan Kerr bearing down on the try line.
Scrum 22.
Chamberlain with ball in hand there.
Yeah.
In the rugby fly half, 11 appearances. You just got a sense that if the Knights could win more ball, he would be a very good fly half for them, but just not got enough to play with. As I said earlier, he just seems to play with his head up, very cool and calm in possession. He picks his passes well, and he's got a lovely long ball. He's used his forwards on occasions. He's lofted a ball over the top to try and get it into the wide channels. His teammates round about him at times today, sadly for him, have let him down.
Yeah, the ascension of Blair Kinghorn from fullback to fly half has done Chamberlain no favours this season. He was certainly the next cab off the rank at 10 for Edinburgh last season, but Kinghorn has taken that position and done so well that he's fallen to third choice behind the lanky Scot and Jaco van der Walt as well. And he's leaving the club in the summer, so a big few months ahead for him as he looks to find a new deal elsewhere. He was at Bristol Bears before, where he came through the ranks and played really well for Scotland under-20s just before the outbreak of coronavirus. Particularly impressive in a win down at Colwyn Bay when the 20 side beat Wales the night before that the actual Six Nations game itself was called off, and we all went into lockdown for 2 years.
Crouch.
That's certainly an interesting few months ahead for Nathan Chamberlain.
Set.
And here is the fly half. Jammers, cross. Going to commit a lot of men to the rucks just now, the Southern Knights. Chamberlain not where he wants to be playing. Shovelled on well. And Rudy Brown, minus the headband, lurking on the edges. Good yardage from the Edinburgh Rugby player.
He's carried well today.
19.
Chamberlain, probing kick in between Brown and Jenkins. Tom Brown uses his experience, but perhaps not quite got the legs of old to escape the clutches of Smith. And that is the upshots.
Penalty, boys.
Ross Maven's whistle, feeling the fatigue as well. The Knights finishing with a flourish.
Yes, better play by the Knights. They've let their hair down, just giving everything a go here, and it's working for them. A fantastic carry up the stand-side touchline by Rudy Brown, and then that kick. And a good chase. Tom Brown caught as he tried to run out of defence. And the Knights now with a chance to kick to the corner. Left it far too late even to be thinking about a bonus point, but just purely from a psychological point of view, a confidence point of view, if they can again end the game more strongly, get themselves another try or two, go into the next game feeling an awful lot better about themselves. That's all it is for them. They just need to try and improve in some way from week to week.
Cammy, you're going off.
And it's probably in the first 73 or 4 minutes today, it's probably hard to pick what areas that they have improved on. I feel like I'm being very, very negative here. towards them. I don't mean to be. As a proud borderer, that would be my home side, if you like, in the Super 6. I want to see them doing well.
And the next substitution is number 12, Cameron Scott.
And again, to repeat what we said at the start, it's been a very difficult time for them. Change of coach, huge changes in terms of their playing personnel. You just have to hope this all stands them in good stead when we get to the FOSROC Super 6 proper.
But the lineup doesn't go to plan for the Southern Knights, and that has rather been the story of the day. Too many mistakes, a set piece that is functioning far below what it needs to. And the Bears, through their bruisers, need to create a little bit of a better angle for Rory Swan. And that is a decent kick. But off go the Knights. Billy Wara. This is where the Fijian can cause problems. Zach Smith was next to have a crack. Redpath. Billy Wara. O'Connell grabbing him and throwing him almost contemptuously to ground. Chamberlain. Is there to be another sting in the tail for the Southern Knights? Chalmers pierces through. Afshar. McMillan. Great running from Cameron McMillan. Took some stopping the young prop. Chamberlain. Oh, the inside ball goes to nobody. Rescued by Afshar. And there's a penalty. Picked up offside by Afshar. And the Knights are their own worst enemy again.
Cheers, Sammy.
Again, with the Knights in possession, I was just about to say Chamberlain looking good. He went behind his forward runners, picked out Robbie Chalmers. He tried to make an outside break, but then when he got the ball back again, and he's looking for the ball, he's asking for it, he's trying to make things happen, but a little bit lazy with his inside ball. Ball lost in Boroughmuir Bears with a chance from the line out up on their 10-metre line. Stolen though at the line out by the Knights.
Here's Chamberlain. Wara. Goes for the kick. Tom Brown goes back. Will be a goal line dropper if he touches it down.
Carried back.
And he's happy enough to take it.
Attack and scrum.
Yeah, in fact, Tom Brown did take that over his own line. Johnny Perryham, the far side assistant referee,
carried back
on the spot.
and scrum.
And confirmation, Bruce, of the FOSROC Super 6 player of the match. And I don't think it could have gone to anybody else but the youngest man on the pitch today.
Yeah, the Scotland under-18 captain in his first start. He's not done anything probably spectacular, but he's done his core duties superbly well. His work at the breakdown, at the tackle, he's carried well, he's a line-out option. And I don't think he's put a foot wrong, to be perfectly honest, and a very deserving FOSROC Super 6 player of the match.
Bind!
Yeah, he's been excellent today, Liam McConnell.
Just come on, lad.
Done everything that's expected of him and more.
Before the set.
And although there are a lot of young players out there, seeing somebody at 17 years old looking not just at home but thriving in the semi-pro ranks alongside some more senior members is very compelling. Shades perhaps of young Ben Muncaster, who was a couple of years older when he was playing Super 6 last season at Watsonians. He was outstanding for the Edinburgh franchise and has now made his way into the pro game proper.
That's why it's look, whoa, calm down, fellas. That's why it's a reset. You can't step back and stand up, you've got to hold your weight. I think you will.
As we said at the start, it's one of the many great things about this competition, and the fact that the coaches are quite happy to chuck these guys in and give them a shot, because I can imagine perhaps a few years ago people said no, they need to get their experience at club level, and you know, the end of their early 20s when they get a crack at this level, and they're all showing that they are very capable of playing at Super 6 level.
Last throw of the dice for the Southern Knights. Chalmers for Chamberlain. Huge wide ball for Smith. And Aidan Cross picks it off his bootlaces and scores against the Bears for the third time in 2 weekends. A double 8 days ago, and he ends the game with a little flourish of happiness for the Southern Knights on what has been another disappointing outing for the Borderers.
Great hands to pick that one up off his bootlaces. We'll look at the replay in just a second, but once again it was a long pass from Nathan Chamberlain. The Knights fly half. Just again want to see who dropped a little ball. It was almost that sort of basketball style pass, similar to Tristan Andrews, the Boroughmuir Bears number 8, in the lead up to one of their tries. We'll get another look at it in a second.
Yeah, I think it was Cameron Thompson who just come on for Cammy Scott. He went out to in and over the top. Chamberlain from wide on the left. Just to make it 2 from 2. Duncan Munn still chasing every ball, but that is a lovely strike from Chamberlain. A rare moment of class from the Southern Knights to bring this game to a close, but it is another heavy defeat for the men from the Borders. Liam McConnell, 17 years old, the star of the game, the FOSROC player of the match, and 5 tries for the rampant Boroughmuir Bears. 3 wins on the spin for the home side, and Graham Shields' men leapfrog Heriots into 4th place, the top of the bottom half of the Super 6 Sprint Series. 5 points in the bag for the Bears. They've beaten the Southern Knights by 32 points to 14. Liam McConnell, so compelling, so impressive, beyond his years today. Won't turn 18 for a couple of months yet, but he looks every inch a player, a star of the future, and opportunities for men like him are exactly what the FOSROC Super 6 is supposed to be all about. What have you made of this Boroughmuir Bears team today, Bruce? They've been pretty impressive, pretty clinical too, and they've feasted on the mistakes made by the Southern Knights, and some of those mistakes forced in part by their own good play.
Yes, I think that's a fair analysis. Just going back to what you said there, I mean, Liam McConnell and his Boroughmuir under-18 teammate, they won the National Youth Cup a couple of months ago. Jerry Blythe Lafferty with 2 tries to his name. As you say, it's everything that we want from this competition. But I think that the Boroughmuir Bears, they'll be happy with the physicality that they brought today. They absolutely won that battle, and at the breakdown they played with pace. Certainly in that first half, their ball from the breakdown just had the Southern Knights defence on the back foot all the time. They might be perhaps a little bit disappointed in the second half. They weren't quite able to maintain that intensity, but all round a good performance from the Edinburgh side.
Well, let's take a spool through some of the best moments of this Super 6 Sprint Series contest. A comfortable win in the end for the Boroughmuir Bears, and this perhaps epitomised how straightforward some of their tries were. McGinley to McGinley. Billy Wara, normally such a ferocious defender, sat on his heels by the Boroughmuir Bears captain, and a simple try early in that second half. And then Jerry Black. Sorry, Bruce, on you go.
No, I was just going to say that's far too easy for a player of the calibre of Billy Wara. You see this tackle here. He commits it too early. He doesn't get his feet in the right place. He doesn't get his head in the right place. Nothing goes right for him. And when he sees that one on the replay, he'll be very disappointed himself, because he's normally very good.
Jerry Blythe Lafferty, who scored the first of the Bears' barrage of tries, almost a carbon copy with his second. The back of a rolling maul, and the simplest of tasks to tuck the ball under one arm and plunge over from close range.
A dream first start for the youngster. So he finds his man at the line out. He was excellent, and then getting the ball at the back of that driving maul over for his second.
This was a super try. Wonderful ball there from Andrews as he's being scooped up by Harry Borthwick. McCallum onto Jenkins, and that is ruthless stuff from the Bears. Beautiful handling in this try.
Yes, fairly simple hands, but the accuracy was excellent. Ball behind there, and Tristan Andrews, as he was picked up in the air, about to be dump tackled. The presence of mind to just keep the ball alive over the top and great pace by the winger Joe Jenkins.
Of the 7 tries scored today, this might just be the best. It certainly excited me the most. Replacement hooker Duncan Hood, a couple of caps for Scotland under-20s, making some very senior players look rather foolish.
Fantastic play by the replacement hooker there. This is probably a good angle to see it. As I said in commentary, I think many other players would have just shoveled that along the line. He had 2 players outside him, but he assessed the situation in front of him very well. And some wonderful footwork. I think he stepped 3 or 4 players on his way to the try line. Showed great pace, great power.
Yeah, doing a fine line in hookers in Scottish Rugby at the moment, with the likes of Duncan Hood and Jerry Blythe Lafferty, and of course PJ Harrison as well, who's a Super 6 player until pretty recently, making his way in the pro game itself with Edinburgh Rugby. Was involved in the Challenge Cup quarter-final defeat to Wasps a few weeks ago. And Graham Shiel, wily head coach of the Bears, plenty of experience as an age grade coach himself. One of the perfect men to progress some of these youngsters, as Liam McConnell presented with his Super 6 FOSROC Player of the Match award by Captain Scott McGinley, and a richly deserved award it is too for the 17-year-old. Contrasting emotions, contrasting scenes in the 2 huddles as Bruce Ruthven pours over the post-mortem with a rather disconsolate looking Knight squads. It's been a tough old campaign for them, and so far it is only getting tougher.
You've got to feel for them a bit, because it's difficult to know where on earth to start. We said at the beginning of the game that, well, I guess every good team is built on the back of a solid defence, and currently the Southern Knights don't have that, but they've got problems at the other end of the field too, just not clinical enough, not able to, they didn't create many opportunities, but other sides would have probably finished off a couple that they had today. And it's perhaps a long way in front of them. One more game left, I think, in the sprint series, and then they'll have to make the most of that break before the FOSROC Super 6 season starts later in the year.
Yeah, they've certainly got a lot of work on their hands of Bruce Ruthven and his players, and this is how things stand after this afternoon's fixture in the FOSROC Super 6 Sprint Series. The Knights still propping up the standings, 1 point from 6 matches and minus 130 odd points in the points difference stakes as well. The win and the 5 points for Boroughmuir Bears propels them above Heriots, who have a bye this weekend, into 4th place on 17 points, and they will take great heart from going 3 in a row. High-flying County and the Southern Knights put to the sword on successive weekends, and they are in a good place as they approach the final fixture of the Sprint Series campaign. So this is what's coming up in round 7. Watsonians travelling to Ayrshire Bulls for a top 3 clash at Millbrae on Friday the 3rd. That will be live on Free Sports. And the Southern Knights taking on Heriots Rugby in their last game of the season, their last opportunity to register a precious victory. Well, on a glorious summer's afternoon in the capital city, it is the home sides who prevail. Another win for Boroughmuir Bears. They climb a place in the table. They get their 4th try bonus points of the season and their 3rd victory on the spin. For the Knights, plenty soul searching and plenty work to be done. My thanks to Bruce for his insights this afternoon, and we hope you've enjoyed our coverage. We'll see you again for another FOSROC Super 6 Sprint Series encounter very soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.